2 of the Gremlins Bonanza. I've opened the fuel pump connection up. You can see the connector has 6 wires. I did a bit of homework, so I went and looked up the wiring diagram. 2 wires. I assume these. I didn't even bother with the colors on the wiring, because usually what I see is the colors in the diagrams I get do not match the colors on the vehicles I get, so I stopped bothering with colors. But I just saw there are 6 wires, 2 of them going to the fuel pump, and I assume they are the bigger 2. There are 2 big wires with a big gauge. One is brown and the other is white with a blue stripe. Now, since the vehicle was running, actually it has fuel in it now. The customer sent us some fuel, about 8 liters I think, but I think it should suffice. We haven't run the engine again, but because I took this apart. Anyway, the other 4 wires, I looked at the wiring diagram and it showed me this vehicle has 2 fuel level gauges. For whatever reason, I think maybe it has a main and backup tank, whatever. So both have gauges, and I didn't get the specs of what resistance I should expect when they are empty. However, none of them should be open. So looking at that, the connector goes in like that. So if you look at these 6 pins, they are offset. They're not exactly in a line of 3 by 2. They are offset each other. But I will show you what I've seen so far. I've put my multimeter to read resistance, and when you look at these wires, the fat ones are on this end, on the looking at the screen. For me, as I'm standing, they're on the right, but to you they are on the bottom, toward the bottom, this side. So the bottom 2 terminals should be going to the pump, and I'm waiting for the multimeter to settle. It's showing something like 5.3 ohms, which I think is fine for a DC motor, 12 DC motor. And I assume the next 2, the middle 2 pin, the middle 2 pins should be going to 1 gauge. If I'm right, that would mean that gauge is open, the one that owns those 2 terminals. Now, moving down to the last 2 terminals. I'm seeing 0.1 ohms. That means my crocodile clips are touching, and when you separate them you get something like 67.7 ohms. Now that's believable for a fuel gauge that is reading near empty. I don't know the specs, as I say. However, I expect to read some resistance. Now 67 ohms is nearly good enough for me. So one fuel gauge is fine. Let's look at the other. Completely open, as you can see. So we have a gauge that one of the 2 fuel level gauges is open. I'm not sure. I'm going to disassemble this some more. I may show you if I get the time, but I'm not sure the gauges are serviceable separately. To fix this, the customer may need to buy an entire fuel pump assembly. Yeah, need to take that out. Yeah, unfortunately I can't show you the connector on here. There are wires. No, he may not actually have to buy the entire pump assembly. I see the fuel pump is separate. Even the gauges appear to be separate anyway. Whatever the case is, one of the fuel gauges is bad. The fuel level sensors is bad, and it will need to be changed. I'll let you know eventually if when I take when I open this up further, will determine whether he can get the bad he can replace the fuel level sensor separately, but usually on many cars, once the fuel gauge is bad, you have to change the entire pump assembly. Okay, additionally, with Derek's help, plugged into the steering angle sensor. I want to show you a better. I'm actually plugged into the steering angle sensor wiring, but the steering angle sensor is unpinned right now. This is the sensor up here. I don't know if you can see it. That is the sensor up there. When you rotate your steering wheel, it tells the ABS control module how much you are turning, in which direction, at what rate, etc. Now it gives that information out to all the modules, especially the ABS module and maybe the engine control module on the CAN lines. Now I've just established that the CAN lines between connected to the steering angle sensor, both CAN wires, CAN H and CAN high, between the two of them, and I can tell you we have a problem. These CAN wires seem to be shorted to each other. Look at that, 2.6 ohms. That is not good. Let me try to unplug it. I've unplugged it, and you see it went to whatever mega ohm, kilo ohms, about 7.8 kilo ohms. I'm going to plug the steering angle sensor in again. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you very well, but I'll keep you on the multimeter. I'm plugging it in now. I think it's very obvious that we have a bad steering angle sensor with respect to CAN wire communication. We also seem to have an open wire. I'm going to try to show you that. I think if I get time to show you that we have open CAN wire connection between the steering angle sensor and the other modules that it is supposed to speak to. So I'm on the CAN wire, one of the CAN wires, the yellow and brown, yellow with the brown stripe. One of the CAN wires going to the ABS stroke traction control module, and I come here with having unplugged the steering angle sensor. I come here to the wire with the same color, and I'm getting 1.1 kilo ohms. So, and that's happening on both wires. Sorry, that's happening on both wires. So that is speaking to me as if we have a high resistance on those wires. Now, if I get time, I'll show you the wiring diagrams. I looked at it earlier. There shouldn't be any resistance because according to the wiring diagram, all those three modules at least are interconnected. There are even actually more modules. I think the instrument cluster, among others, there are about 5 modules speaking on that network. And I checked the resistance between those same wires, but going to the between the ABS module and the engine control module, and they had 0 resistance. So I'm having issues there. So with respect to the steering angle sensor issues, we are having what looks like high resistance in the wiring and the steering angle sensor shorting. Shorting the terminals for the CAN wires together. Sorry, I was interrupted by someone. I established that the CAN lines between the steering angle sensor and both the ABS control module, which is here. You see those wires I'm touching, those two that I'm touching. And this set of wires here, this is the CAN communication wires going to the engine control module. This is the set going to, this set here is going to the ABS module. I've established that between here and here there is continuity, and in fact in part 1 I showed you there were CAN signals, good CAN signals, and in fact those two modules spoke together, and well, rather not together, spoke to each other, and the ABS, the engine control module, was able to get brake pedal position information from the ABS module successfully. However, earlier off camera I established that I have high resistance between those terminals. I should have continuity of those two wires coming to the steering angle sensor. Off camera I established that I have high resistance on both wires, so I'm looking at potentially issues, especially because the high resistance is on both wires. I could be looking at an issue with the connector, whichever connector where the CAN wires for all the 3 modules meet: ABS, steering angle sensor, and the engine control module. Wherever they meet, that's where the issues are. I don't think at this point that it is likely to be open wire. It's hard to, because when I checked the high resistance, it was around 1.1 kilo ohms, so on both wires, so it's unlikely that both wires would break open or partially open to exactly the same spec. So I'm thinking it's a junction issue at this point. I just want to show you what I'm seeing on those wires when I've unplugged the steering angle sensor. What I'm seeing at its connector. What I need to establish is are there any good signals coming to it from both the engine control module and ABS module. I'm going to turn the key in the ignition on. Key is on, and then I begin seeing this funny stuff. I see spikes here. This is CAN low, this is CAN high, supposedly, but you can see it's not looking much like CAN communication, because these voltages are starting at 0 volts, which shouldn't be happening. Let me turn off the ignition and you see that they remain at 0. key off in the ignition. So that is 0 line for can high, 0 line for can low. Or is it the other way around? One is can high, one is can low. It doesn't matter at this point. And then I spun it up like that, and then I start seeing that. Not very good signals. Let me try to measure. Try to measure this voltage, and it keeps changing. That's about 2.6 volts, and this to this have to clear, measure, and then try to do it again. Vertical, one peak to peak. Yeah, that's 2.3 volts. Move the trigger to this point here. Measure again. Did I clear? So I want to do the vertical one, peak to peak, from around here. That's 2.45 volts. I saw 2.38 before. It's now 2.51. If I do it here, forgive me, I'm still learning to use some of the stuff on this. Yeah, this is 2.6 up here, goes from 2.6. This one 2.2, whatever. From 0 to 2 point whatever. I don't like that. So I'm going to plug the steering angle sensor in now, and we see what happens with that. So steering angle sensor plugged in on position, and I don't see much happening now. Actually, it looks like the steering angle sensor is not sending out anything either. Is it because the lines could be shorted to ground inside the steering angle sensor? I'm going to check that with the multimeter. Key off now. key on. I'm going to unplug the steering angle sensor. Unplug the steering angle sensor. And that noise comes back. I'm going to plug in now without turning the key off. And disappeared. The hash we were seeing before disappeared. So what I'm going to do now is measure resistance. I have my multimeter here. I'm going to measure resistance between the two CAN wires when they're plugged into the steering angle sensor. Unfortunately, I need both hands, and this area is a bit squeezed, so I can't show you on camera. I will just let you know what the results are. Okay, welcome to where the transfer case module lives. Sorry for the shaking footage, but you can see it is well and truly plugged in. So, and I remember when I was using the scan tool, I spoke to it and it gave me one single code. So I assume it has two harnesses. This one, which I assume is coming from the front of the vehicle with power and all that, and then this smaller one which goes that way and seems to get power on this wire and ground, and it's grounded here. Oh, this could be the main harness. I see CAN network cables. Remember those? We saw those at the front, red and brown. So this module is on that high-speed CAN network as well. So this must be the harness. This must be the harness going to the transfer case module. And I see it's connected in, and it gave me only one code. So I'm going to have a look at the wiring diagram again. How many wires are these? I can't count them because, well, if I unplug this, yeah, the key is off in the ignition, so I don't think I can set up code. So these must be the wires going to the motor that drives the that pushes the transfer case from 2-wheel to 4-wheel and back. And these, how many wires are they? 5 wires. No, yes, there are 5. Brown, red and white, purple, blue, and white. Wait, there's another. There's a red one too. So there are 5 wires. Yes, there are 5 wires. So this is obviously going to the motor, so I'm going to check for motor continuity, and then I will look at the wiring diagram to see what these other wires are for. I know one. I know it has a resist. It has a sensor, a Hall effect sensor for position, for knowing the position of the motor or whatever it winds, and then it also has, I think, a resistor, something sensor for identifying which transfer case is on this module, and therefore knowing how to drive it. Well, let me go to the wiring diagram and have a look.